Thanks for tuning in to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. You know, once we get into the middle of the growing season in soybeans, a lot of farmers across the country are asking, what are some of the herbicides that we can use to control these tough weeds that aren't named Roundup, XtendiMax, Ingenia, or Liberty? We'll talk about some of the other herbicides that could be used in conventional beans too on today's program.
Well, you know what? The scary thing is we're already getting about to the end of the season, the end of the time where you should be spraying some of those herbicides. So we'll have some fun talking about that today. We're also going to have some fun talking about corn rootworms. Now, hopefully you don't have those in your field, but if you do, or if you're worried about it, you can do some rootworm digs. We're going to talk about that today as well.
Well, driving around the country, one thing I do know many farmers have in their fields is our weed of the week. We'll show you how to control this tough weed later in the show, but first, here's our farm basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
In our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about soil crusting. And when you think about crust, that usually means hard, and that's what farmers are concerned about. If they plant their seed and then some event happens that the soil gets hard over the seed, so it has a tough time getting out of the ground.
Well, this is kind of a fine line here that we're playing because we want that soil to be packed down. We want to have good seed to soil contacts. You want that soil kind of packed around that seed real nicely, but if it gets too hard on the soil surface, it can end up being this thick crust that the seed can't push through. So how are you going to prevent that? In what conditions is this most likely to happen?
One thing that can cause some soil crusting after a field has been planted is if there is a nutrient imbalance. For example, the relationship between calcium and magnesium in a soil is very important. My grandpa and great-grandpa farmed some ground right down on the river bottom that was very high in magnesium and very low in calcium. Well, calcium has a big size to it, and magnesium has a very small size to it. When you have lots of magnesium with lots of small things out there, it can pack together and there's not a lot of airspace in between them. With calcium, that leads to more porosity in the soil naturally with a nutrient that your crop needs lots of. So farmers that have high magnesium soils often add more calcium in one form or another to try to improve things and reduce crusting.
The other big thing we talk about to reduce crusting is having more residue out there. So farmers who are in no-till, very seldom do they have a crusting problem. Farmers who are in reduced till, especially something like strip till, for example, not a whole lot of issue. Where we see the most problem is farmers who've worked that ground black. There's very little organic material in there, and when we have soils with less organic material in that topsoil, you know what, we just end up with more crusting problems. The rain is able to pack stuff down together a lot easier. When there's the organic material in there, it just doesn't pack as well, so we don't have as much crusting.
There are a couple things that farmers do besides this, cultural practices we'd call them, to try to reduce the impact of crusting. For example, with soybeans. They are a seed that is going to push both halves of the seed out of the ground. That's the first thing that emerges from the ground with the soybean plant, is the two halves of the seed trying to get out. Now to do that, it takes a lot of push. So farmers will oftentimes plant a higher population with a crop like soybeans, so they have lots of those seeds pretty close together, all trying to push together to get the benefit. Now in a grass crop like corn or wheat, that may not be as much the case. They're just trying to poke a small little leaf out of the ground, but still farmers will do things like plant the crop more shallow if they don't want to have to push as hard, or they'll plant more seeds together closely to try to get extra push.
The other cultural practices some farmers will use is a rotary hoe. They'll take the rotary hoe out there. Well, the problem with a rotary hoe is sometimes you can do more damage than you do good. More than anything, farmers are just praying that they get a little bit of moisture to alleviate the crusting problem, and then it goes away. But again, if a farmer has a good level of calcium out there, if he reduces tillage, he's much less likely to see soil crusting, and he's much less likely to see stand loss.
However, one thing a farmer is likely to see is our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up later in the show.
lower costs, higher production, Mandico Agri leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Avoid costly downtime with Twister's ease of maintenance. Its unique Coulter suspension allows it to follow the contour of the field yet remain forgiving in rocks. Our hydraulically adjustable Coulter angles mean you never leave the cab, making residue management easier, more efficient. Spring or fall, the Mandico Twister is the new leader. Check with your local dealer or visit mandicoagri.com.
Take a look inside any rotary combine and you'll find single rotor technology. Technology Case IH introduced over 35 years ago with the axial flow combine. But unless it gives you more bells and whistles with fewer belts and chains, more power using less fuel, it's not an axial flow. Because while the heart of every rotary combine beats red, only Case IH gives you the power to do more.
The Guardian Air Twin Spray Nozzle from Hypro produces a twin spray pattern with air-inducted droplets for superior coverage, even in dense canopies. Be effective and efficient with your spray application this season with the Guardian Air Twin. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Which post-emerge herbicide should you use in your soybeans if they are conventional beans? Oh, and by the way, your Roundup beans, well, they're pretty much conventional beans now too if you have Roundup-resistant kochia or water hemp or ragweed or mare's tail or a number of these other resistant weeds. So you got to start thinking about what else can you throw in that tank to get those weeds under control.
The other thing with a lot of these traits is they run out at R1 or maybe R2. You have to check the label based on the trait that you're...
It's just that's the latest you can spray.
Sprayed that particular herbicide. So after that point, if you're still spraying or you have a late weed flush, you're going to need one of these conventional products.
Well, you do, but this
if they're labeled.
That's right. And the reason why we're talking about this today is FlexStar, for example. That's one of the most popular post-emerge soybean herbicides today. It's great, we love it. It's cheap and everything, has residual, that's all nice, but the problem is it's a 10-month rotational restriction to corn.
All right, so the question gets to be, well, how far do I push these things? And you know what? It's really tough to know. You have to follow the label, absolutely, but maybe you're right at the border and you say, you know, I'm probably going to be 10 months and a week later planting. What would be a condition that would cause me problems? You know, when you look at herbicide breakdown, we want good microbial activity in the soil. So if we've got our soil in balance, our pH is in line, we're not crazy high, we're not crazy low, and then we look at moisture conditions and heat. If we get plentiful heat and plentiful moisture, we've got great microbial conditions, herbicides should break down like they normally are expected to.
That's right, but heat is number one. So I just want you to think about if you're in northern North Dakota versus if you're in Arkansas, well, who gets more heat? Obviously, in Arkansas, you're going to break down herbicide a lot faster, which is why, for example, on the FlexStar label, you're going to see that, you know what, you can use a higher rate and still rotate to corn 10 months later if you're in the south in a warmer area.
All right, the other thing you have to think about is just residual control. Maybe you aren't running up against a window where I can't plant again. Maybe the planting rotation is a little bit less, but you've got a product that you know has good, strong residual. For example, let's look at Pursuit or Raptor. They've got some good soil residual to them, which is one of the real pluses for using those products for weed control. The challenge is in low pH soils, they have a tough time breaking down. So where the full rate may be 4 ounces for Pursuit, if you've got a low pH soil, you may not want to push more than a half a rate out there just to not take any chances at dinging up next year's crop.
Or same thing if you've got a short growing season. So you got to think a lot about rate. Classic is another product that, you know what, in the wrong pH situation, it's not good. But it's the opposite of Pursuit. It's high pH where we have a problem with Classic. So here again, we just really encourage you, take a look at all these different soybean herbicides you can use and look at rotational restrictions. It all depends on what crop you want to plant next year for these residual herbicides.
Perhaps the biggest challenge with all these products, Brian, is that they aren't Roundup. They aren't even Liberty. They aren't even Extendamax or Ingenia. They are products that only work on just a couple of weeds out in the field, and you've got half a dozen different kinds of weeds that there's no product that gets every single one of them. So how do you choose which product to use?
What you always want to do is start with, hey, what's my worst weed problem? Get that under control first, and then spray when the weeds are small. Also, you have to get great spray coverage. So this is one of the reasons why we talk about using pre-emerge herbicides. You got to thin the weeds out a little bit. If you've got solid weeds out there and you're trying to get great spray coverage, how about the weeds that are underneath the weeds you're killing? A lot of times in thick weed areas, you don't get everything under control.
All right, let's take the worst weeds, pick the best products.
Okay.
Pigweed.
Probably Flexstar, but you got to do it early. After another week or two here, then you're down to Cobra.
Okay, how about kochia?
Cobra. It's not great, but that's the best.
Wild buckwheat.
Wild buckwheat, I'd say probably Pursuit.
How about cocklebur and sunflower?
Probably First Rate. What do you think?
I like First Rate the best. How about yellow nutsedge?
That's where I'd go Basagran.
How about Canada thistle if you can't use Roundup?
Also Basagran. That's probably why you mentioned Canada thistle right after
All right,
nutsedge.
here's another one for Basagran, Brad. Venus mallow. That's probably the best one too. So, I mean, there's some that you have to think about that, hey, I'd never use Basagran, but if you had those weeds, you might consider it. The other thing that I'm thinking about, Brian.
Wait, no, I got more weeds. I got some for you. Lamb's quarters.
That you use Harass, the generic Pinnacle.
Okay, common ragweed.
Well, ragweed I like First Rate as long as it's not ALS resistant. If it is, then I like Flexstar.
Yep, and if it's too late for Flexstar, then you go to Cobra, and that's where this all gets complicated. Okay, how about tank mixing? Can I throw Cobra in together with Flexstar, 2 burners?
No, it gets way too hot. You don't want to do that. The same thing like with your pre's. You don't want to use Valor with Authority. It gets too hot and hard on the plants. Just pick one or the other. If you're going to use Cobra, go up to that 12.5 ounce rate and just hit it hard.
All right, and what do you do if you've got 2 products you're putting together? One says surfactant, the other says crop oil. What do you use for an adjuvant?
Well, you have to use a judgment call here. If it's 90 degrees, I'm going adjuvant. If it's a really nice day, it's 75 degrees and sunny, then you might use the oil, or you could cut the oil back. Instead of using a quart per acre, maybe use a gallon per 100 and try and lessen the impact of that oil.
Okay, one of the things with Roundup, let's say it's in Roundup Ready soybeans, and right on the Roundup label it says, don't use crop oil, you should use surfactant, but you know what, we're seeing better results with crop oil. Then what do you do?
Ask your agronomist, because my agronomist says use oil. That's the best.
Yep.
Well, and here's the thing. You have to look at what the chemical manufacturer's after. You don't want to do anything that voids your product guarantees, those kinds of things. But you want to make sure the product works. You don't have to be back out there. And a lot of times the surfactant makes a huge difference. So make sure that you're using the right ones.
Well, once again, we just really encourage you, get your weeds under control. That's how you maximize yield and get those weeds killed when they're small. If Roundup isn't working, throw something else in with that Roundup. There are still plenty of options. It's just they work a lot better when you get good coverage and you kill the weed when it's small.
One of the weeds we didn't cover is our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up later in the show.
One of the biggest yield-limiting factors on farms is even crop emergence, and only one closing wheel will get your growing season started right. Furrow Cruiser spiked closing wheels from Copperhead Ag are proven to yield better than standard rubber tire and cast iron closing wheels in all conditions. With yield gains that give you a return on investment the first season, there's no reason to run a standard closing system again. Visit copperheadag.com today to get your 2017 growing season started right.
Looking to maximize your yield potential? Monsanto BioAg can help with microbial seed applied solutions. Available for a wide variety of crops, they contain hard-working microbes that help your plants access key nutrients, enhance their root and shoot growth, and help them better withstand stress all season long, all of which add up to a higher yield potential for you. See how microbes can help you at monsantobioag.com/500trillion.
We love the quality, we love the construction. We're looking forward to working with Morton in the future.
They have this down to a science. They know exactly what you want. They know how to make it happen. It's an easy process.
I would definitely recommend Morton. From the first time I met the salesman to the last nail that the crew put in, it has been a positive and professional experience.
I'm so happy I found Morton because they just make the job so easy.
Find the building of your dreams at mortonbuildings.com.
Dealers, repair shops, and other ag parts resellers, this message is for you. Looking to save money on your parts purchases? Parts Express can help. We have over 3,000 popular items for tractors and combines priced at a level to save you and your customers money. In this tough ag economy, who wouldn't want to save on parts? Parts Express prides itself with old-fashioned service and easy-to-do business with environment. Go to parts-exp.com to see our parts offering and become a Parts Express dealer today.
A farmer's attention to detail is what makes the difference. You take the time for service management because you know how vital it is to your operation. You service your field like everything else because soil sampling makes all the difference and gets the results you want. Download the app Soil Test Pro and start grid sampling today. Keep your farm growing strong. The more you test, the more you know.
My favorite tool to bring with me when I go out into any cornfield is a shovel. I want to do some digging and find out what's going on below ground. This time of year, one of the things that I'm looking for is corn rootworm feeding on the roots.
Well, yes, it's great to talk about, but boy, it is a lot of work if you're going to go out and dig up rootworms. But
you're just saying that because you're imagining it being 100 degrees and you're having corn taller than you.
Yes, I am. But here's the whole thing. If you don't dig it up, how do you know if there's a problem? Here's how most people figure things out. At harvest time, they go, well, my corn fell over at harvest time. I had a difficult time harvesting, so it must have been a rootworm problem. Okay, well, we can go dig stuff up now. You can probably see where there was some feeding, but you know what? Today we can figure this out a lot better.
So what you want to do is dig that root ball up. And what I like to do is I'll dig the root ball up and I'll leave the soil on it, and then I'll put it into a 5-gallon pail of water. And when I submerge that root and kind of shake the soil free, you'll start to see those little worms float to the top. Now I realize this isn't something you say, oh great, I'm going to carry a 5-gallon pail of water to the middle of a cornfield and then start digging. No, I'm not going to do that either. I'm not going to go in that far, nor am I going to carry the pail out there. I'm probably going to go dig the root and bring the plant back out of the field. But if you do that a few times, you're going to learn some things. Another good place to do this kind of root dig is with volunteer corn in your soybean fields. I talk to farmers every year that tell me, it's just an eyesore. I don't believe you that it's really robbing a whole lot of yield. And I say, okay, even if it doesn't rob yield, leaving volunteer corn in your soybean fields leaves a home for corn rootworms. So why don't you just get rid of them? And they're like, what? No, there's no corn rootworms out there. All I have to do is bring the shovel out in the soybean field and dig a couple of root balls up, and we'll see corn rootworms there too. So it's something that could be a great learning thing for your farm, and it could help you if you have somebody stubborn that you farm with that may not want to change their ways.
Okay, even if you have rootworm resistant corn, you may have rootworms that they can tolerate that. They survive. So you still want to do some root digs there. You want to find out if you're having a problem. What you usually see in the upper Midwest is rootworms are in that rootworm stage during the month of June. Then they're going to change to the adult beetle. So later in the summer, usually around tasseling time, you'll see adult beetles flying around. If you see the beetles, you know you had the worms earlier on. That's usually what I do, but if you'd like to find out now if you've got some rootworm problems, go out and do some digs.
I'm not sure if digging is the best way to control our weed of the week, but we'll give you some other ideas coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. Take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our weed of the week is common milkweed.
As soon as we talk about common milkweed, I know we're going to get some feedback from people that say, well, we should keep milkweed. We should leave them alone because butterflies like those milkweeds. They need milkweeds. And
Darren, the same thing could be said of volunteer corn. Why would you kill volunteer corn? Corn is an important crop. Well, it is, but it doesn't work when it's in our soybean field. It's a weed when it's in the wrong place.
That's right. It takes away yield in our fields. I'm fine with milkweed growing elsewhere. For example, I have a friend in an urban area and he's planting milkweed right around his house because he wants to have more butterflies. Hey, that's wonderful. I have no issue with that at all. Just don't plant them out in the middle of my soybean or cornfield.
Okay, so if you want control of common milkweed, the best thing you can do is no tillage, spray Roundup at a really high rate. Roundup is very systemic. It's going to work its way down through that great big extensive root system of the milkweed. That's how you get best control. But keep in mind, milkweed has a waxy leaf surface. Because of that, you can't stick a lot of product on there. So you want to run low rates of water, high rates of Roundup. That's where you will get the best results.
All right, we don't have any pre-emerge herbicides that are great. You could certainly do something like Sharpen or Verdict in corn or soybeans.
It's only going to burn it to the ground,
to get some burn on the top growth.
So I wouldn't do that. I'd skip that, just go straight Roundup.
All right, Brian, you took the easy one off the table. Roundup works good. It gets down in the root system. But what else is there? There's really nothing else that gets down in that root.
No, there isn't, but you can use Roundup in almost everything because milkweed gets tall. So like in soybeans, you could use a wick and hit the top of the milkweed plant. That works. You can go spray pre-emerge, or you can spray after harvest in corn or wheat or something like that. So yes, if you're in wheat in the middle of the season, maybe go out there with Husky, just try to burn it down for now, and then actually kill the patches after harvest. So
hey,
yeah,
I'd say the same thing about pulling milkweed. If you hand pull, you're just going to break it off, and it's going to shoot up new stems. So it's just temporary control for appearance sake that's going to come back up later.
Yep, so use Roundup. That's the best on milkweed. And if you want a whole bunch more butterflies, go plant some milkweed plants. You can do that around your house.
That's all the time we have for our Weed of the Week, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
Corn uses 75% of its nitrogen after V10. Investing all of your nitrogen budget before the crop is planted means you can't react to the changes in nitrate levels due to mineralization, rainfall, and temperatures. Split application using the 360Y drop boosts nitrogen efficiency and often yields. In seasons with strong mineralization, you can save input costs by reducing applied N. In wet years, replace lost N and hit your yield goal. Learn more at 360yieldcenter.com.
We've got teams all over talking about low salt, micronutrient, high efficiency fertilizer teams like it's something new. What's your take?
I tell you, Don, AgroLiquid team has had these technologies for over 30 years.
And really unprecedented application versatility, compatibility, and ease of use. So they're your pick for the championship season?
You bet. Their full line nutrients is going to take them all the way to the root zone.
And now we have Jenny in the field talking with Farmer Dave.
Thanks, Don. Dave, after the impressive turnaround last year, what are your plans for the coming season?
Well, as you know, I changed teams mid-season last year. Now I know my AgroLiquid partners are ready to go to work. I'm completely happy with the performance and the level of dedication I get from AgroLiquid.
From the guys in the field?
Everyone at AgroLiquid. I believe AgroLiquid has me on the road to success.
There you have it, Don. Dave has a plan for another championship season with AgroLiquid.
They're my pick, too. AgroLiquid's going all the way.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
What would make this spraying season successful on your farm? Many would say killing 100% of the weeds and harmful insects. Today I'll focus on not harming neighboring crops in today's Iron Talk. Keeping your spray on target is critical to get the best results and avoid problems. Physical spray drift is something that you can control in 3 key ways. First, if you find yourself asking someone else if it's too windy to spray, you already know the answer. Follow label directions for the product you're spraying and use common sense around sensitive crops. Find days where the wind is blowing away from a neighbor's field and so forth. The second way to control drift is to utilize drift control spray nozzles. I love this option because you can add a 3-way or a 5-way nozzle body to your sprayer and change things on the fly. Conditions are perfect when you start, and you can run with a regular nozzle. The wind picks up to 8 miles an hour and the label says you can keep spraying until 10, no problem. Flip over to nozzles that create a coarse droplet size. Now, if you're spraying XtendiMax or Ingenia for the first time in dicamba-tolerant cotton or soybeans or in another labeled crop, take a little extra care this year. All the research and in-field experience over the last few years tells us these formulations have dramatically less volatility, meaning they stay where they land, but physical drift can be a concern as well, just like with anything. Go to XtendiMaxApplicationRequirements.com or IngeniaTankMix.com for the specific nozzles to use with these products. Finally, the third way to control drift is with drift control additives. These can work very well, but the caution here is not to overdo it. I generally recommend that you try a half a rate of a drift control additive first and make sure that it doesn't create any issues. Then you can move up to a full rate with confidence. To sum it up, it's great if you can achieve 100% weed and problem insect control. Just as important, though, is to keep your spray on target. Follow label directions, utilize drift control nozzles, and possibly even drift control additives to help you meet your goals. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
On your farm, you need speed and year-round effectiveness in your tillage program. The Quick Till from Norwood Sales allows you to move quickly through your fields, maximizing time and improving yield. Constructed of heavy-duty materials, the Quick Till is ideal for both spring and fall applications, from preparing a healthy seedbed early in the season to breaking up corn residue after harvest. For more information about how a Quick Till can improve fields on your farm, call Norwood Sales today.
That's all the time we have for today's show, but before we go, we want to invite you to tune in to the Ag PhD radio show. We're on Sirius XM channel 147, that's the rural radio channel, each weekday at 2 p.m. Central.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
Did you realize that a healthy soil only contains about 50% dirt? In order for the soil microbes and plants to work together properly, soil should contain 25% air and 25% water. Today's farming practices are designed around maintaining that healthy balance. To learn more, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.